At 60, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You've lived long enough to know the taste of loss, the weight of responsibility, and the invisible pains that no one can see. You've buried dreams, swallowed silences, and endured storms that would have knocked anyone down. And that's precisely why now comes the time to decide with lucidity and courage which side of life you want to be on. Because yes, at 60, you can be happy or unhappy. And contrary to what many people say, this doesn't depend on what the world gives you, but on what you choose to sustain within yourself. Happiness at this stage of life is no longer an accident. It's a posture. The Stoics said that we have no control over external events, but we do have absolute control over how we react to them. That's the key. What's past is past. Youth is behind us, bodies have changed, faces have aged, bonds have changed. But what remains and what can still be shaped is what you do with the time you have left. There are those who reach 60 waiting for life to end. And there are those who at 60 wake up to life for the first time. What separates one from the other is not luck, money, or perfect health. It's the way each person chooses to interpret their own story. At 60, you can look at everything you've lost and sink into regret, or you can honor the scars you carry and walk more lightly. You can spend the rest of your life complaining about what others haven't done for you, or you can take responsibility for your own peace. You can drown in old sorrows, or you can free your heart and make room for the new. Because the truth is, one, the world won't stop to rescue you. If anyone can still save you, it's you. What the Stoics taught us over 2,000 years ago is still valid today. That pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. That losing is part of existence, but clinging to loss is a choice. That old age is not a misfortune, it is fertile ground for those who desire wisdom. But wisdom only flourishes on firm ground, in a mind that refuses to be a slave to its emotions, in a soul that doesn't bow to the expectations of others. You have come this far, you've been through storms, and now you may well choose serenity. The question is, will you? In the next block, we'll look at the silent saboteurs of happiness after 60, those habits, thoughts, and attitudes that many older people carry without realizing it, and which keep them trapped in a cycle of frustration, emotional dependency, and fear of the future. Are you ready to face this truth firmly? Then follow me. Your freedom begins where your illusion ends. At the age of 60, a lot changes, but one thing remains: the tendency to believe that the blame for our unhappiness always lies with something or someone outside of us. It's easy to point the finger at the children who have become distant, at the partner who no longer listens to us, at the government, at the body that no longer responds at time that has gone too fast. But what is difficult and profoundly liberating is to accept that a large part of what makes us unhappy lies within. And if we want to change our reality, there's no point in waiting for the world to become fairer. Transformation begins when we stop running away from ourselves. One of the biggest saboteurs of happiness in old age is silent victimhood, that constant thought that everything always happens to you, that you've always been the forgotten one, the exploited one, the one who gave more than you received. But living trapped in this narrative is like sitting on a bench in a square and waiting for a bus that will never come. The Stoics warn us facts don't define you. What defines you is what you do with them. You may have been ignored by your children, but that doesn't stop you from building new bonds. You may have been betrayed, but that doesn't stop you from trusting. Again, at least in yourself. You may have been humiliated, but that doesn't have to shape your identity. Pain only becomes destiny when you decide to inhabit it. Another common poison is clinging to the past as the only reference of value. Many people keep repeating that the world used to be better, that everything used to be truer, that today's young people are no good, and they lock themselves away in a time that no longer exists. They live on memories as if the present were a mistake and the future a threat. But those who live trapped in what they've lost can't see what they can still gain. Stoicism teaches the past cannot be changed, the future cannot be predicted. Only the present is real, and it is the only place where happiness can be built. Every minute of life you still have is a chance to free yourself from this toxic nostalgia and start living in the now with more presence and truth. Another cruel obstacle is the fear of loneliness, which pushes many older people into worn-out relationships, forced friendships, and environments that aren't good for them. Loneliness is terrifying because it forces us to listen to what's left inside. But paradoxically, it is only when we face this silence that we begin to really listen to ourselves. There is no wisdom without solitude. There is no growth without internal confrontation. The Stoics said that the wise man is self-sufficient, not in the sense of living in isolation, but in the sense of not depending emotionally on anyone to be at peace. Anyone who depends on the presence of another person in order not to feel lost has already been lost for a long time. And finally, there's attachment to other people's opinions. How many still live to please their children, to keep up appearances, to avoid the judgment of the neighborhood? How many stop doing what they love, wearing what they want, dancing, expressing themselves for fear of what others will say? That's prison. And it's a prison that you sustain yourself. The Stoics remind us, if something isn't under your control, it shouldn't take away your peace. The opinion of others is not in your hands. So why give it the power to control your life? At 60, you no longer have time to waste pretending to be what they expect. You have the right and the duty to be whole. In the next block, you'll meet real examples of people who have chosen happiness, even after decades of carrying unnecessary burdens. Ordinary people who decided that their old age would be different. Because they understood that freedom isn't a gift you're given, it's a choice you make. And that happiness at this stage of life doesn't come from chance. It comes from the courage to reinvent yourself. Ms. Ligia is 64 years old, and for more than 4 decades, she lived to please others. She married early, raised her children practically, on her own, worked until her bones ached, looked after her sick parents and swallowed insults quietly. When she retired, she thought she would finally have time for herself. But the house continued to be full, the requests kept coming, and the days seemed to get heavier and heavier. She felt exhausted, useless, invisible. Until one day, when she went to the doctor to talk about her insomnia, she heard, "Your body isn't sick, it's tired of being ignored by yourself." That woke her up. And that's when she made her choice. She began to say no without guilt. She learned to stay silent, without feeling selfish. She started walking alone, listening to loud music, painting. And it was in this new space that she rediscovered the joy of living. Not because the world has changed, but because she has changed the way she inhabits the world. Seu Raimundo, 71, spent a good part of his life complaining. He complained about politics, his neighbors, his children, his health, and the price of bread. For him, everything was a cause for bitterness. He woke up in a bad mood and went to bed upset. Until one day, after a tough conversation with a grandson who avoided visiting him, he realized what he had become: a grumpy old man, isolated, feared, and unloved. That hurt. But he didn't run away. He began to study philosophy, read about Stoicism, and decided that he was going to change. Not because someone told him to, but because he couldn't live like that anymore. Today, he wakes up early, writes down 3 things he's grateful for, calls his grandchildren to tell jokes, and helps other elderly people use their cell phones. He himself says, "I haven't gotten any richer or younger, but I have become someone I enjoy living with." These stories are not fairy tales. They are real lives of people who have understood a profound truth: you can choose how to live your old age. You can continue regretting everything you've lost, or you can start building something new from what's left. And what's left is more than enough. What's left is your conscience, your history, your time, however short, and your will to change. Stoicism never promised a life without pain, but it has always offered a way to get through it with dignity. And that's what old age demands: dignity. The dignity of not abandoning oneself, not to sabotage yourself, not to hide. Every new day is a new chance to reinvent yourself, even if it's little by little, even if you don't know where to start. Happiness after 60 doesn't lie in great achievements. It lies in the simple: eating what you like without guilt, wearing what represents you, having the courage to remain silent when everyone is shouting, in no longer carrying the world on your back, in not begging for love, in not waiting for someone to value you before valuing yourself. There is something profoundly beautiful about those who choose to bloom late. These people don't want applause, they want peace, and by seeking this peace, they become an inspiration to everyone around them. because they show that it's never too late. That old age isn't the end, it's the time to harvest what's worthwhile and throw away what's no longer useful. In the next block, we'll outline together the practical steps you can take to break out of stagnation and take charge of your emotional and spiritual life. If you've come this far, you're ready. Ready to finally make the choice that matters most, not to waste another day of your existence. If there's one thing that time teaches us with brutal clarity, it's that it doesn't come back. Every minute you waste with resentment, guilt, or fear is a piece of your life that will never be recovered. That's why if you really want to be happy after 60, you need to understand that happiness isn't something you find, it's something you build every day with small, conscious, and consistent choices. And those choices start now. The first step is to abandon the idea that your best phase is behind you. This is a lie repeated so many times that it has become truth in the mouths of others, but it doesn't have to be true in your life. Your best phase begins the moment you decide to stop living on automatic, on the pilot of obligation, and start living with purpose, with presence. And this can happen at 60, 70, 80, or today. The second step is to clean house. This means asking yourself honestly, what am I still carrying that should have been left behind? What hurts, what voices, what regrets, what fears are holding me back? And above all, what can I do with what I still have? You may no longer be young, but you have wisdom. You may no longer have the physical strength you once had, but you do have discernment. You may no longer have everyone around you, but you still have yourself. That's enough to get you started. The Stoics taught that the free man is the one who doesn't give in to useless passions, unhealthy expectations, or struggles that aren't worth it. You can be that man, that woman, but you need to make space. The third step is to build new habits. Happiness doesn't come from big decisions, but from small routines. Waking up and giving thanks before complaining. Taking care of your body with affection and respect, even if it already has its limitations. Walking, sunbathing, eating mindfully. Speak kindly, saying no without guilt, saying yes with truth, taking time for yourself, reading, writing, meditate, taking deep breaths. It's not about changing the world, it's about changing the way you inhabit your own world. The fourth step is to shield your mind, not against others, but against the automatic thoughts that sabotage your peace. Thoughts like, I'm no good anymore, my time has passed, nobody cares about me. These thoughts aren't facts, they're noise, and you can choose not to listen to them. You can replace them with truths that strengthen you. I can still learn. My presence has value. I can still live with purpose. As Epictetus said, what disturbs you is not events, but the judgments you make about them. Your mind can be your prison or your liberation. And the fifth step, perhaps the most important, is to make a commitment not to abandon yourself any longer. This requires firmness. There will be days when you want to give up. There will be nights when the silence will weigh you down. There will be times when pain tries to convince you that it's better to go back to the old way. But you already know where that road leads. And now you also know that there is another one. A quieter path, yes. More challenging, perhaps, but infinitely more worthy. A path where you are the author of your own story, even if the whole world has tried to write it for you. In closing, we'll recap the main points of this journey and leave you with a final call, because at 60, 70 or more, you can still be happy, but no one is going to live it for you. The decision is yours, and it starts today. Today you have seen that at 60, life is still fertile territory, but only for those who have the courage to cultivate what really matters. You've understood that happiness isn't a gift that the world hands you on a platter. It's a silent, firm construction made up of daily choices that in the eyes of others may seem small, but which within you have the power to change everything. You've learned that it's not the past that determines your old age, it's what you decide to do with now. That it's not others who will give you peace, it's you who needs to stop giving it away for free. And that Stoicism, this ancient and powerful philosophy, can be the foundation for a life with more lucidity, more autonomy, and more lightness. Now I want to know from you, which of these truths struck you the most? What decision do you feel you need to make today to change the course of your story? Comment below, your voice matters. And by sharing your experience, you help other people to realize that it's never too late to start again. If this video spoke to your soul, like it, share it with those who need to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Here we don't talk to please, we talk to awaken. Because old age is not a phase of waiting, it's a phase of power. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to let go of the weight of regret once and for all and turn past mistakes into fuel for a lighter, truer life. Stay tuned, this conversation could be the push you've been waiting for. Until then, take care of yourself. And remember, life only changes when you change the way you see it. See you soon.